Hello, it's Joe Simhart here. I think this is the 8th installment of Cults in the Occulture. This topic will concern the Holy Grail and how it's represented in substances and in objects like tektites, minerals. So let's start with a definition here from the Dictionary of World Religions. So the Holy Grail is an object of quest in Arthurian legend, King Arthur, right? The myth of the Holy Grail has received extensive and varied artistic development. Its origin, the subject of continuing debate, has been surmised to lie in fertility rites of ancient Greece, Celtic legend, and Christian liturgy. The term Grail is associated with a number of objects, including the dish from which Christ ate at the Paschal Lamb at the Last Supper, the chalice from which he drank, the container in which Joseph of Arimathea collected Christ's blood, generally one of the vessels from the Last Supper, and a talismanic stone, similar in properties to the philosopher's stone of alchemy, and the spear that pierced Christ's side, or the spear of Longinus, right? In the legend, Joseph of Arimathea is said to have brought the Grail to England, where it is protected by his descendants, the Fisher Kings. A knight sets out to find the elusive castle of the Fisher King, and thus to end the suffering of this ill or wounded king and his distressed realm. The quest becomes a spiritual journey in search of true chivalry, Christian love. Having flourished during the late 12th and early 13th centuries, the legend appeared in works such as Malory's Mort de Tours, Tennyson's Idylls of the King, Wagner's opera Parsifal, and T.S. Eliot's The Wasteland. So there's a short synopsis of what we're getting into. But so this idea of the Grail is like a journey, a quest that we look for, and the symbolic meaning is that it's an alchemical or transformative experience that helps us to realize God, to realize self as God, or to realize self as the source of all things in the universe, all of that stuff, right? Terence McKenna wrote a book called Food of the Gods, The Search for the Original Tree of Knowledge, A Radical History of Plants, Drugs, and Human Evolution. And in here he covers all these substances that might qualify as transformative substances that help us with this inner alchemy, everything from soma, the magic mushroom, coca, the divine plant of the Incas, coffee, tea, chocolate, and into our modern age of psychedelic drugs. He's sort of a promoter of that kind of experience. But what I want to get into mainly is a book I got in the late 1980s, and when the crystal fad was really big, and it seems to be big again. This is called Moldavite, Starborn Stone of Transformation, right? So it's like that. And the book is by Robert Simmons and Kathy Warner, who've sold these stones, these tektites, as well as researched their background. And there's an interesting introduction by Jean Houston, who was a woman, a researcher in psychedelics that I heard speak at our university in Dayton, Ohio in the late 60s about her research. She was quite eloquent then, and I think she's in her early 80s now. So Jean Houston is a PhD and director of the Foundation for Mind Research, and she introduces the book and basically states that the experiences people have with this stone, this Moldavite, are very transformative. She quotes someone as saying, after 3 months of having Moldavite, I discovered that the speed at which changes are happening in my life is unlike anything I've experienced before. I couldn't stop them if I wanted to, right? And then she asks about this stone that apparently originated millions of years ago. A meteor or something exploded in the Moldavia region in the Czech Republic and left these greenish tektites. They're like glass. They're a form of silica that forms after a great energy is released and melts them in free flight, so to speak, and they have these interesting shapes. In fact, let's just get to what they look like. In general, they look like this. And they can cost anywhere from hundreds of dollars to small pieces to $1,000 and $2,000 for larger gem-like pieces. So she says that, or asks this about Moldavite: is there something in the symbol or substance of Moldavite that inhibits the brain's inhibitors, like certain psychedelic drugs were thought to do? And can it be that it just might contain the frequency of a larger domain of being and so engender in its use the pulse and music of times to come? Anyway, she asks these questions, and they try to answer some of these in the book. I recall when this book came out, I went to a New Age kind of a rock shop bookstore in Santa Fe, New Mexico, and I wanted to purchase a tiny piece of Moldavite, and it cost me, at that time it felt expensive, $15 for this 2-gram piece, I think it was. But there were two gentlemen there, New Age sensitive type of men, who were trying on Moldavite things, like a Moldavite headband and a Moldavite bracelet and necklace, and I was listening to them, and they were talking about how euphoric and wonderful they felt, and they were just having all these incredible experiences around Moldavite. Now, I didn't have any, but I did purchase it because I wanted to use a piece of Moldavite as an illustration for lectures about this topic. So the interesting thing about this is that the authors, when they began researching this stone, they said that they were exploring the possible connections of Moldavite with the fabled stone of the Holy Grail. In the first article I ever read of these stones, Nicholas Roerich was paraphrased as saying that they were the same as the stone contained in the Holy Grail. Now, Roerich, again, was the founder of Agni Yoga, which I lectured about before. He founded it with his wife, Eleanor Roosevelt, and he talked about this green stone as being transformative, apparently. Roerich was, anyway, he said that it was the same stone as contained in the Holy Grail. Knowing nothing about Roerich or the Grail, we were compelled to look them up. And anyway, she did all this research, and they came up with all kinds of interesting statements, because they handed out, Moldavite to people and just to have them write back to see how they would describe changes in their lives over a period of a couple of months. They had a test control group, which they didn't say anything about the stone. They just said report on what happens. And then they had a group which they mentioned that that the stone had transformative properties. They said there wasn't much difference in the reports from these two groups of maybe 90 or 100 some people. But so people, even today, there's a YouTube thing I looked at that came out this year by a woman that calls herself Hibiscus Moon, and she's had 33,333 views of this particular talk on Moldavite, and she says that it's transformative, it's chakra cleansing, it helps you with your ascension work. It's also aligned with a cosmic shift. She said that some of the energy of Moldavite has gone down in the last 2 years because of a change in the cosmic shift. I don't know if the stone feels that, but she certainly does. So basically these stones that are terrestrial silica, is how scientists describe them, meaning that silica or sand melts in a certain way, and it had a green tinge to it, and it's actually considered a gemstone among all the tektites because it's rare. But you also get these transformative ideas of what's the purpose of it. Throughout the last years, the authors in this book say, I have repeatedly gone inward and asked my guidance about the Moldavite and its purpose. I believe that Moldavite was created and put on the planet to aid us and Earth at this very critical time in our transition to a new way of being. So the New Age movement, the time of transformation was a very big thing in the late 1980s and continued through the 90s, but it kind of went underground a bit. But today, we have a resurgence of this, like I said, with the quote from Hibiscus Moon. And the idea is that you can take this stone and work with it. So, the Holy Grail can mean many things. It can mean the simple clay cup that Jesus drank out of at the Last Supper, and it can mean some kind of a chalice, right, that like this painting has with red substance in it, that collected the blood of Jesus when he was dying on the cross, and thus made this a holy relic, transformative relic if you can reach it somehow, as in the symbolic story of Parsifal, of Wagner's opera. Well, I'm going to leave it at that, and here's to your health, and may your Grail search end in peace, prosperity, and love. Thank you.